What if the reason you lost your last argument wasn't because you lacked the truth, but simply because you spoke way too much?
That is such a wild concept to start with.
Right. I mean, think about that for a second. We spend our entire lives terrified of awkward silences. We're always rushing to fill the void with words, with defenses, with explanations.
Yeah,
But what if silence is actually the ultimate weapon? Welcome to today's deep dive. We're so glad you're here with us.
it's a huge psychological shift we're talking about today.
It really is. And we have an incredible stack of sources we're exploring for you today. We're pulling together behavioral psychology analysis, Harvard Law School negotiation tactics, a really interesting guide from the Gentleman's Journal, philosophical breakdowns of Sun Tzu's The Art of War, and even an IE military analysis of global hybrid warfare.
Which sounds like a lot, I know.
It does. But our mission today is actually very focused. We are deconstructing the hidden rules of modern psychological warfare. We want to show you how to stop reacting from this place of bruised ego and start winning through, well, decisive stillness.
Yeah, because if you think about it, the human heart really hasn't changed in 2,000 years. Only the tools have.
Exactly. So let's get right into the first big idea here, which is the illusion of words. We usually assume arguments are won with logic, right? With the perfect, irrefutable comeback.
Right, like we think it's a debate club.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the behavioral psychology analysis points out that arguments aren't won in language at all. They are won in the realm of perception. The human brain actually decides trust before words are even consciously processed.
Within milliseconds, yeah. People are judging your confidence and your emotional control.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because it's like a predator sensing a nervous prey. If you're frantically trying to fill the silence with words, you're signaling that you aren't in control. You're the one being hunted.
That is a perfect analogy. What's fascinating here is that seeking to argue is often just a subconscious chase for validation.
Oh, wow. So we just want them to tell us we're right.
Exactly. You are begging the other person to understand you, and in doing so, you're bleeding emotional energy. But silence creates pressure. And I mean internal pressure, not loud, aggressive pressure.
Because you aren't fighting back.
Right. You just pause and observe, and suddenly, the other person becomes extremely uncomfortable with their own behavior. Because you don't convince people by yelling at them. You let them convince themselves as they talk and eventually expose their own contradictions.
They basically just trip over their own words.
Literally, they do.
So how does this translate into tangible, high-stakes situations? Because it's one thing to do this with a friend, but the data from the Harvard Law School program on negotiation brings this right down to the ground.
Oh, the negotiation data is incredible. They talk about using tactical silence to break this phenomenon called anchoring.
Anchoring. So for anyone who hasn't heard that term, anchoring is a cognitive bias, where the first extreme demand sets the psychological boundary of the whole discussion. So say someone throws out a wildly aggressive offer. The instinct is to protest, right?
Yeah, your brain screams that it's ridiculous. But the moment you protest, you legitimize their anchor. You are now auditing their reality.
But the Harvard researchers say the most devastating response is stunned silence. You don't protest, you just sit there.
Which is so hard to do.
It really is. But it diffuses the anchor. And it buys you time to do what William Ury calls going to the balcony.
Right, going to the balcony. Mentally stepping back as a neutral observer to reduce your own biases.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because I was reading the piece from the Gentleman's Journal, and they talk about the physical reality of this.
Physical presence is everything here.
Yeah, it's not just sitting there like a frozen statue. They talk about adopting a fixed power pose, maintaining controlled eye contact, maybe even the calculated deployment of a swear word if it's fueled by passion later on. But my question is, isn't it agonizing to just sit there in silence when someone is verbally coming right at you?
Oh, it's completely agonizing. But that agony is exactly what you are leveraging.
Wait, really? How so?
Well, think about what a nervous person does. They shift around, they talk way too fast, they break eye contact. But a dominant person utilizes stillness. They remove the emotional feedback.
So you're starving them of the reaction they want.
Exactly. Arguments are essentially rhythm battles. And a perfectly timed pause breaks your opponent's emotional rhythm. It forces them to wonder, wait, did I miss something?
You take the paddle away in the middle of a ping pong match.
Yes. You completely short-circuit their cognitive loop.
Okay, let's take this into the modern workplace, because applying Sun Tzu's The Art of War to office politics is just brilliant.
It really is the perfect modern battlefield.
Right, because the battlefield isn't a muddy trench anymore. It's a glass office building. And the enemy isn't holding a sword. They're holding a laptop and a smile. And they have the ability to steal your credit in a meeting.
Which happens all the time.
All the time. And Sun Tzu's rule is to observe before acting, to appear weak when you are strong. The person who seems to win today by manipulation is often just building their own downfall.
Because they're mistaking volume for value.
But let me push back on this for a second. Because if a coworker steals my credit right in front of my boss, my immediate visceral instinct is to scream and defend myself.
Oh, absolutely. That's human nature.
Right. So how is staying silent in that moment not just rolling over and being a complete doormat?
Because there is a profound difference between passivity and strategic timing.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, anger is noise. And in noise, strategy dies. Passivity is staying quiet out of fear. Strategic timing is staying quiet to gather leverage.
Wow. So reacting emotionally actually hurts you.
It does. The modern warrior doesn't react. They document and they wait. When you understand your own ego and your own flaws, no one can use them against you.
Because you aren't giving them the erratic outburst they're trying to provoke.
Exactly. The greatest power is hidden power. You strike with undeniable data and results, but only when the moment perfectly aligns with your advantage.
Okay, so this is blowing my mind. But before we move to the next section, I want to be very clear to you, the listener. We're about to discuss some politically charged global events involving Russia and China.
Yes, very important caveat here.
We are not taking sides, and we are absolutely not endorsing the viewpoints of the military analysis we're referencing. We are simply reporting impartially on the psychological strategies identified in the IE paper.
Right, we're just looking at the mechanics of the deception.
Exactly. Because it's wild how these exact same psychological principles of silence and ambiguity apply to global superpowers. It's macro-scale deception.
It really is. Nations act just like individuals in an argument.
Yeah. So the IE paper on hybrid warfare brings up these massive examples of Sun Tzu in the 21st century. They talk about Russia's maskirovka, which means strategic deception, during the 2014 Crimea annexation.
The use of the unmarked troops.
Yes, the little green men. They deployed these troops without national insignia to create just paralyzing ambiguity.
Because if you don't know exactly who is attacking, you don't know how to respond.
Right. And the international community's bureaucracy basically froze. And they also detailed China's gray zone tactics in the South China Sea.
Building the artificial islands.
Yeah, under the guise of scientific research at first, right?
Yeah.
Until they were fully militarized.
It's a gradual escalation that avoids a direct trigger for war.
So what does this all mean for us? It's essentially the geopolitical version of letting the other person fill the silence.
Yeah.
A nation acts ambiguously, forcing the other side to second-guess their response until the strategic objective is already achieved without a single shot being fired.
As an impartial analysis, it's textbook subduing of the enemy without fighting. And the paper suggests that the EU needs a harmonized hybrid alert system to detect this kind of deception.
Which is such a great phrase. A hybrid alert system.
But the beautiful parallel here is that you, the listener, need your own internal alert system.
Oh, to detect when your ego is being baited.
Exactly. You need to know when someone in your life is using gray zone tactics on you to try and provoke an emotional reaction.
Okay, so let's transition to how you can actually apply this in real life tomorrow. How do we build that internal alert system?
Well, the sources give us some incredibly practical takeaways. There's this fantastic anecdote from the Harvard negotiation data about a junior investment banker.
Oh, I love this story.
So this banker had a terrible habit of jumping in the second his counterpart finished speaking. He was just terrified of the silence.
Because he felt like he had to prove he belonged in the room.
Right. So a senior attorney told him to literally count to 3 silently in his head before responding to anyone.
Which sounds so simple, but 1, 2, 3 in a tense meeting feels like an eternity.
It feels like a lifetime. But it forces you to process what they actually said instead of just formulating your defense.
And it completely changes how people perceive you too.
It does. It makes you look thoughtful and in control.
Another really actionable takeaway is practicing neutral facial expressions during those pauses.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah, so when you are provoked by a partner or a colleague, don't scowl, don't sigh. Ask a question, keep your face neutral, and let them fill the space.
They will almost always walk their aggression back.
Most people never realize this. But your silence is not weakness. It is strategy. Your patience is not submission. It is preparation.
That is a fundamental mindset shift.
So we've gone from personal arguments
Mhm.
to boardroom betrayals, all the way to global geopolitics today.
Yeah.
And the big takeaway is that the world doesn't reward noise. It rewards clarity.
It really does. And I want to leave everyone with a final thought to mull over, building on all these sources.
Please do.
Consider this. We spend our entire lives trying to master the perfect words to say, the perfect comeback, the perfect argument to prove our worth to the world. But what if the only true way to win the battle against someone else is to first win the silent battle against your own ego?
Wow.
The next time someone tries to provoke you, look inward before you speak and ask yourself, are you fighting for truth or are you just fighting for validation?
That changes everything. What a powerful note to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep exploring, stay curious, and we will catch you next time.